Okay, so I think we start with Surah Al-Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم عسى الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعن الله ولا أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. So this is our um, final session on Dua al-Iftitah, and I believe this is also going to be the last or maybe penultimate session during Shahr Ramadan. Um, And first of all, before we begin, I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts everyone's ibadat during these nights of Qadr and throughout this whole month of Shahr Ramadan, and that inshallah He counts us amongst the successful. So coming back into Dua al-Iftitah, if you remember last week, we got to the stage where we started doing the salam and sending blessings upon, or asking Allah to send blessings upon Ahlul Bayt. And we got to Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. So the next one and the next few stanzas is mentioning all of the remaining Imams. So it starts with وَصَلِّ عَلَىٰ أَئِمَّةِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, and send blessings to the leaders, to the A'imma, to the Imams of the Muslims. And then it goes through Ali ibn al-Hussein wa Muhammad ibn Ali wa Ja'far ibn Muhammad wa Musa ibn Ja'far wa Ali ibn Musa wa Muhammad ibn Ali wa Ali ibn Muhammad wa al-Hassan ibn Ali wa al-Khalaf al-Hadi al-Mahdi. So when we are saying this, when in a dua, we are sending blessings upon Ahlul Bayt, when we're sending blessings upon the Imams, it's not just to enumerate that, these are the Imams and Allah, I want you to bless. Because when we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, it incorporates all of them. So sometimes it's interesting to think why in these uh, du'as and even in some ziyarat and stuff do we specifically mention all of the Imams? And one of the reasons that's been posited is as a reminder to ourselves that we remember who these Imams are. Allah, of course, He knows who all of these Imams are. When we say, وَصَلَّى عَلَىٰ أَئِمَّةِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, yani send blessings upon all of the Imams of the Muslims, of course, this is well known. Allah knows. But we are then testifying. We ourselves are giving testimony with certainty, because we talked about certainty earlier on, that Ali ibn al-Hussein, yani Imam Sajjad, Imam Baqir, Imam Sadiq, Imam Kadhim, Imam al-Rida, and so on and so forth, Imam Jawad, Imam Hadi, Imam Askari. And finally, when we come to Imam al-Hujjah, wal Khalaf al-Hadi al-Mahdi, then we say, Hujjajika ala ibadik. These Imams, all of these Imams that we've explicitly mentioned are your decisive arguments over your abid, over your servants, over those people in servitude towards you. They are your hujjah. They are the hujjah of Allah, the proof of Allah, the wali, the awliya of Allah, you could say, upon all of these servants. Therefore, the inference that we are making when we say this is that we accept all of these Imams as your hujjah and as our awliya. They are the walis that we listen to, that we follow, that we accept, and that we completely, and whatever they say, we accept. And whatever they dissuade against, we move away from. We then go on to say that they are the وَأْمَنَائِكَ فِي بِلَادِكَ, and your trustworthy confidants in your land. So these Imams were people who were trustworthy for Allah across the world. They were people that carried Allah's command to all of the people of the world. Obviously not directly, but through their ashab, through their people, through their works, through their messages. They sent these important commands of Allah in a trustworthy fashion to everywhere across the land. And this is again an affirmation on our side. So we're saying, Allah, we accept that these are your awli, your the walis, the hujjah of you upon us, and that they delivered your commands. They were trustworthy to you, they were confidants to you, and they gave your command and your instructions and your message to all in the land. And then we say, Salatan kathiratan da'ima, that, oh Allah, for all of these people, send them a blessing that is numerous and eternal. It's non-stop. It doesn't stop. It never stops. This blessing that we're asking you, we're begging you to send to them, to each and every one of them, it doesn't stop. It's uncountable and it's eternal. Then we come on to probably one of the most important segments of this dua, where we start speaking directly about Imam al-Hujjah, Jalla ta'ala farajahu sharif. And we say, Allahumma wa salli ala waliyi amrika al-qa'im al-mu'ammal. والعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. So this is also a very interesting statement, because we're saying, Allah, again, send blessings to the wali amr. Allahumma wa salli ala wali amrika al-qa'im al-mu'ammal. With the word wali al-amr, which means the guardian of the commands, the custodian of the commands, the one who is the vigilant guardian and the reliable patron, we ask you to send blessings to him. Now, again, when we look at these, we should look at the words that are being used. Sending blessings is one thing. That is, one could say that's a given. But we're saying over here, wali amr. We're saying explicitly that send your blessings to this wali al-amr, to your wali al-amr, wali amrik, to the wali of your amr, to the custodian, to the wali of your commands. Al-qa'ima, al-qa'im, al-qa'im al-mu'ammal, the vigilant guardian, the one who is always on watch. He's not, even though we know Imam al-Hujjah is in ghaiba, his ghaiba does not mean that he is ghafil, he's unaware of what we are doing, of what is happening. We have reliable hadith which say that every Friday Imam Mahdi is given information about the believers. And when they say every Friday, this is again metaphorical. It's not like Imam Mahdi gets a big file every Friday which the poor man is going through until the following Friday. This is not what it means. It means he's regularly given information about the believers, what's going on, what is the situation. And sometimes, many times we say that the stuff that we see happening in the world, like for example, the way the Israelis have started bombing Gaza and Lebanon again, and the way the US and its allies are bombing Yemen, and today they just bombed the airport and all of this stuff. We know a tiny fraction of what's happening, of the dhulm that's happening. We know these big geopolitical stories. But Imam al-Hujjah, when we say that he is the vigilant guardian and the reliable patron, this is someone who knows every last detail of what's going on. He knows the little child in Gaza who was blown to pieces. He knows the young girl in Hodeidah who now has no parents. And he knows of her state. He knows of her condition. He knows about that soldier, that person who came along and gave a loaf of bread to someone. He knows all of these little details. He knows the good and the bad. So when we see a tiny fraction of what's happening and our hearts break, we need to be cognizant that Imam Mahdi knows infinitely more. And Sayyid al-Qa'id, the representative of Imam al-Hujjah, in his absence, he knows much more than we do. But Imam Mahdi, of course, he knows, one could say, everything about whatever is going on. And this is not just on the geopolitical level, it's also on the personal level. when people have problems, when people are in difficulties, Imam is aware of all of this. And when we say send blessings on him and we accept him as the Wali Amr and the Qa'im al-Mu'ammal and Adl al-Muntadhar and so on and so forth, we are saying that we accept that he is this. We accept that he is the Wali Amr, that he is the Wali of your commands. So he is the one who is the guardian, the custodian of your commandments. And he is a valiant guardian, a vigilant guardian. He is someone who is reliable. He doesn't um, take his eye off the ball, if you like. وَالْعَدْلِ الْمُنْتَظَرِ. And he is the awaited establisher of justice. This is also very important because we can see that justice in all the different levels that the human condition can experience justice, many times it is lost. We see obviously geopolitically we see justice is essentially non-existent in the wider geopolitical game. We see even within communities, sometimes within families, even within ourselves, that justice is not established. It's not available. It's manipulated. It's played with. But when we say Imam al-Hujjah is wal adl al-muntadhar, this should be a reminder back to us that Imam Mahdi is the awaited establisher of justice. He's the awaited establisher of justice. That means we who are following Imam Mahdi have to also, in our own small way, we have to also be establishers of justice. Even if that means that we're establishing justice within ourselves, within our friends, within our family, within our community, we have to work in that way. Because like I've said before, when we say these titles, these are not just nice, warm titles that make us feel warm and fuzzy. These are lessons to us. So Imam Mahdi is the Wali Amr. He is the custodian, the Wali of your commandments. So we have to be the ones who protect and become custodians of and adhere to, follow the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to be vigilant guardians. We have to be reliable patrons. And we have to be those people who attempt to the best of our ability to establish justice upon the earth in whatever sphere we can. And then we say in the dua, وَحُفَّهُ بِمَلَائِكَتِكَ الْمُقَرَّبِينَ, and surround him, yani keep him, yani protected with your best and strongest angels. وَأَيِّدْهُ بِرُوحِ الْقُدُسِ, and assist him with the Holy Spirit. Now, at this point, I'm not going to get into a discussion of the Holy Spirit because that requires a lot more detail and everything. Suffice it to say, Ruh al-Qudus can sometimes mean Jibreel, but sometimes it means something higher than that. So we are telling Allah that this is Imam Mahdi, this is the Wali Amr, the one that we recognize as the Wali Amr, the one who is doing all of this, and we as followers of him, we are also trying to do this. So Ya Allah, you surround him with your favorite angels, by extension, help us. Don't leave us abandoned, don't leave us alone, and help us as well to follow in his way, to pave the way for his return. And we say, Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. So, O Lord of the worlds. Then it becomes even more interesting. Please give me a salawat and we continue.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And again, I just want to point out that what we're doing over here is a very, very, very high level look at Dua al-Iftitah. We will be, inshallah, starting from next week, going into much more detail into the whole notion of dua. What is dua? And that will lead us into doing much more detailed, you could call tafasir of the various du'as. And I haven't worked out which dua we're going to be starting with, but first we have a reasonable primer that we need in order to understand what is dua. So moving on to the next line, it's Allahumma ja'alhu da'iya ila kitabik. That, oh Allah, choose him to be the caller to your book. Now, this doesn't mean only that Imam al-Hujjah is the only one to be chosen as the caller to the truth, to the book of Allah, to Quran. This, again, like I've said, this is reminding us that we who profess to follow Imam al-Hujjah We have to be callers to the book. We have to be exemplars of what Quran is saying. We have to be those people who, يعني, when people see us, when people interact with us, they should have a positive opinion of Islam because we are establishing Islam within ourselves. And that connects to the next line, وَالْقَائِمَ بِدِينِكَ, and the establisher of your religion. So we have to establish, at least within ourselves, within our limited arenas, the religion of Allah. استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله. Make him to be successful on the earth. Yani make Imam al-Hujjah to be successful on the earth in establishing your religion, in calling to your book, and all of the stuff that we've said before. And this also is about us. Help us to be successful in doing this as well. كما استخلفت الذين من قبله. The same way you caused those who came before him to be successful. And this comes back to one of the discussions that we had about prophethood, where we were discussing the notion of how is the prophetic mission deemed successful? Because sometimes the prophet had, or a prophet had the ability to establish the Tawheed-based society, Tawheed-oriented society, and other times they didn't. Other times they were made shaheed, like for example, Yahya ibn Zakaria, or even Nabi Isa. In their lifetime, they were not successful, but actually they were. And the reason that there was no establishment of the Tawheed-oriented society in their times was because of the people who, as we discussed in those sessions, the people didn't have strong belief, and they didn't have um, patience. They didn't have that fortitude to work through all the difficulties. So these du'as, when we're looking at them, we are reminding ourselves of all of this. That we are saying to Allah that, look, Allah, you helped and you caused those who came before Imam al-Hujjah, which is not just the Imams, it's also the Prophets, all of the chain. You caused them to be successful. We want you to make him successful. And that means that we need to have faith, we need to have patience. So this is indirectly telling Allah that you grant us, you help us to have that patience and to have that strong belief so that we can ensure the success of Imam al-Hujjah Jalla Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Then we say, مَكِّن لَهُ دِينَهُ الَّذِي ارْتَضَيْتَهُ لَهُ. Establish for him his faith, which you have approved for him. So in establishing Islam, it should be the correct variant of Islam, the correct understanding of Islam, the understanding of Islam that is approved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as taught to Imam Mahdi, as taught to Rasulullah, as taught to Imam Ali, as taught to all of the Anbiya and the Awliya. And this, again, it's a reminder for us that we want to establish this system that is approved by you. And we want Imam Mahdi to be the one to lead this system. We want him, we accept him as our wali because we've already called him al-Wali al-Amr. So we accept him as the wali, but we accept also that he is in occultation, as we'll say later on. So help us to be people who can do this establishing of the faith. It's not passive. It's not just that we sit in Shahr Ramadan and we say, مَكِّن لَهُ دِينَهُ الَّذِي ارْتَضَيْتَهُ لَهُ, and khalas, establish for him his faith. So we sit down and we say, okay, khalas, ya Allah, you establish for him. Me, I'm going to go and do whatever I need to do. Whatever I want to do. I'm going to go and, I don't know, go for a walk or whatever. No, we have to also work by saying these words. We have to also work to establish that faith that we know, that we understand, that we learn. The first step of establishing it is to learn what it is so that we can establish this faith which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has approved. And we know the faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has approved because in Quran we have ayah of takmil. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. That this day I have completed your religion for you and completed my favor upon you and chosen Islam as a religion for you. Now, this is where it becomes even more interesting and it's more relevant to our time as well. So please give me a salawat and we can proceed.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Now, we know that establishing haqq, establishing the true Islam is not something that is easy. That is not without, that is something, yani, the enemies will come against it. And so we say over here, Abdilhu min ba'di khawfihi amna, that give him in exchange for, yani, give him for all of this safety after he was fearful. So we know one of the reasons Imam al-Hujjah went into ghaiba was because there was a genuine fear for his life. All of the imams before him were massacred, were killed, not by kuffar, but by so-called Muslims. And this is another point that we need to reflect on. They were killed. Imam Mahdi, in order for Allah to preserve him, Allah took him into ghaiba, into occultation. And he left the task upon us to prepare the way, to pave the way. So, I mean, we've said this before, but the type of intidhar, the type of waiting that we need to do is not a passive waiting where we say, oh, Allahumma ajil waliyyak al-faraj. That, oh, Allah hasten the return of, Imam al-Hujjah. No, that is not sufficient. We have to work. We have to work to establish this Tawheed-oriented society in whatever sphere we can, in order that when Imam Mahdi returns, he will have safety after there was fear. And even for us, when we try and work to establish this, the same enemies that came against the prophets will come against us. We've discussed this in, again, the Wednesday sessions on prophethood. We've said the four types of people that will, the four groups of society that will attack and that will be opposed to establishing the prophetic system or the Tawheed-oriented system. And they will come after those people attempting to establish the truth. So we are asking Allah that, look, we want to do this. We want to do this. We know Imam Mahdi can do this. We know that you will allow him to do this, but we want to like pave the way. We want him to have an easier task when he comes along. So we are trying to establish this ourselves. So you help us as well. You give us in exchange safety after our own fear. Then we have يَعْبُدُكَ لَا يُشْرِكُ بِكَ شَيْئًا. And this is also, again, this everything in Islam, everything yields back to Tawheed. That is what all of Islam is about, Tawheed. Because over here we're saying, he serves you. He is your abd. Imam Mahdi is your abd, Allah. We too are your abid. We are your servants. And he ascribes nothing as a partner to you, and we ascribe nothing as a partner to you. These are lessons that we have to learn to understand. Whenever we're saying, oh Allah, please do this for Imam al-Hujjah, do this for Imam al-Hujjah, it's not just we're telling Allah, please do this for Imam al-Hujjah. That's there, of course. We want Allah to give Imam al-Hujjah the best protection, the best energy, the best strength, the best everything. But at the same time, we who genuinely try and follow Imam Mahdi, Allah, please help us as well. Because you're helping him, you help us. And then we go along and we say, Allahumma izzahu wa a'ziz bih. Oh Allah, grant him that power, that izzah, and make him the source of izzah. Make him the source of honor, of power. Now, Allah will definitely, without any doubt, grant Imam al-Hujjah power. He already has. And make him a source of power for who? If someone is a source of power, there is someone who is benefiting from that source of power. And who is that? Who is benefiting from that source of power or that source of izzah? The believers that yield into him, that move towards him, that accept him as the wali. وَانْصُرْهُ وَانْتَصِرْ بِهِ. And support him, يعني help him, and يعني make him a source of help, make him the means of your help, of your assistance. So again, in the same vein as the previous ayah of the previous line, Allah grant him help, support him support, give him assistance, and make him a means of support, make him a means of victory, make him a means of help. وَانصُرْهُ نَصْرًا عَزِيزًا, and help him with a mighty, a powerful help. And in fact, if you look at these two lines, the first line is Allahumma azzahu wa aziz bih, wansurhu wantasir bih, wansurhu nasran aziza. Like just looking at it purely from Arabic balagha rhetoric, it's actually very beautiful how cyclic it is. You're talking about Izzah, you're talking about Nasr, and then you're talking about Nasran Aziza. You're sort of wiring everything together. So in three lines, you have some very beautiful Arabic prose, if you like. Then we say وافتح له فتحا يسيرا, and make him make him have a a conquest, make him prevail with easiness, with like an easy victory, a simple victory. واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا, and delegate for him your authority, your controlling sultan, your controlling authority. And again, all of this is we're praying for Imam al-Hujjah, but we're also telling Allah we want to pave the way for Imam Mahdi, so you help us as well. You help Imam Mahdi, Akid, we get that. We want you to help Imam Mahdi. But we, as believers, we want the job for Imam al-Hujjah to be easy. We want him to have that Fathan Yasira, that easy victory over the Taghut. So help us to have that tawfiq to be able to pave the way so that when he does come, the victory is easy for him. Then the next line, Allahumma adhhir bihi dinaka wa sunnata nabiyyik. That, oh Allah, make prevalent, make well known, make revealed, make manifest your religion through him, make manifest your religion and the teachings of your prophet. Again, this is a message. Of course, we're praying to Allah for Imam al-Hujjah, but this is a lesson for us that, oh Allah, we're asking you to make your religion and the sunnah of Rasulullah, the traditions and norms of Rasulullah, prevalent and manifest through him, as in established through him. But we want to do this as well. Give us the tawfiq to be able to make this religion, to make the sunnah of Rasulullah manifest as well. Help us to pave the way. حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. So that he will not have to hide any item of truth for fear of any of his creation, of the creatures. So make it so that everyone knows about Islam. Everyone knows about the teachings of Rasulullah, so that Imam al-Hujjah does not have to hide something for fear of the creatures, maybe attacking him or killing him. The way sometimes and this is something that maybe some Muslims have a problem with, when we are asked by maybe non-Muslims and even hostile non-Muslims about something in our religion, like many times they ask you about, for example, they talk about the age of Lady Aisha. They talk about, for example, the position of women in Islam. They talk about war. They have this verse they call the verse of the sword and all of this stuff. Whenever they talk about this, many Muslims who are not well versed with Islam, who don't understand, they become very defensive and they start apologizing for Islam. What we're saying over here that, oh Allah, make it so that your religion and the lessons and teachings of your prophet are completely manifest, so that nothing needs to be hidden, because there is nothing that needs to be hidden. Because nothing in it is something frightening for people. Nothing in it is something that would confuse people, because the answers are fully there. The explanations are fully there. And we know the explanations are there because one of the hadith about Imam Ali, when he describes Rasulullah, he called Rasulullah the one who quenches the thirst of the questioner. So a person would come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alih, and ask a question, maybe a difficult question. But Rasulullah would answer that question so completely that the guy who's come to ask the question will say, okay, fine, I understand. Thank you. It's enough. Rasulullah will not leave anything to chance that he might misunderstand. We have many of these hadith. We have many of these teachings. The real ulama, they have all of this. And it is our duty to learn all of these and to understand all of this, to have that solid belief. And again, this comes back down to the idea of usul ad-din and furu' ad-din. Usul ad-din, which is our ideology, which is our aqaid, we have to be certain in it. We have to be very firm in it so that any point within usul ad-din, we should be able to defend for ourselves. And that's one of the reasons we're doing the Wednesday sessions to try and help all of us, myself primarily, in order to educate people so we understand, so that we can make sure that no question is left unanswered. No apologizing needs to happen, but only clarification, tabyin, has to happen so that people are not left with like a bitter taste about Islam, but they realize that it is something so beautiful and so amazing. So please give me a salawat and we move to the next.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل.
So now we come to one of the most well-known sections of Dua al-Iftitah, and we're coming close to the end now. This section is said by many people. People sometimes recite it in Qunut, sometimes they do it at the beginning of lectures, and this is اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. So if we look at this, what the meaning is, O our Lord, O Allah, we desperately ask you, we desperately desire that you give us a respectful government. What is a respectful government? A respectful government is a Tawheed-oriented government, a Tawheed-oriented system. تُعِزُّ بِهَا الْإِسْلَامَ وَأَهْلَهُ, through which you might give honor to Islam and its followers. So that Islam, the reality of Islam, is made manifest through this system. And its followers, the ones who genuinely follow it, they have a degree of honor because of following that. وَتُذِلُّ بِهَا النِّفَاقَ وَأَهْلَهُ, and you humiliate hypocrisy and those people who follow hypocrisy. So those people who feign a type of religion, type of Islam, that has nothing to do with Islam. And then we say, and we'll do a bit more of a discussion on this once we've gone through the whole translation. وَتَجْعَلُنَا فِيهَا مِنَ الدُّعَاةِ إِلَى طَاعَتِكَ, and count us amongst those who invite people to the obedience of you and lead them to your approved path. We lead them to your way. وَتَرْزُقْنَا بِهَا كَرَامَةَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ, and grant us the good of this world and of the world to come. Now, for those of you who've listened to the sessions that we've had on Wednesday, you will know that we talk about the Tawheed oriented system, the system that the Anbiya came to establish, is to create a paradise on earth like a paradise in heaven that is already there. This is what this means. Give us the good of this world and the world to come, meaning give us that tawfiq to be able to build in this world a paradise like we have in the paradise that is with you. So when we start at the beginning again of this section. Oh Allah, we desire that you confer upon us a Tawheed-oriented society, a Tawheed-oriented government. This is something, it is a dua. Yes, we are asking Allah to give us something. But it's a case of you tie the camel and you then make dua. So it can't just be passive. It can't just be that we say, oh Allah, please give us this, Tawheed-oriented society, but we do nothing to establish it. We do nothing to move towards it. We only sit there in Shahr Ramadan and we say, Ya Allah, please give us, please give us, please give us. We do nothing about it. We just talk. This is not enough. This is not right. We're telling Allah that we want Allah to give us, because we are followers of Islam, to give us izzah, to give us honor, to give Islam honor. And yet, if we as Muslims act in a dishonorable way, we defame Islam with all of our actions, with the way we operate with society and everything, then how do we exactly expect that Allah is going to give honor to us or to Islam? We talk about and humiliate hypocrisy, وَتُذِلُّ بِهَا النِّفَاقَ وَأَهْلَهُ, and you humiliate hypocrisy and those people that adhere to hypocrisy. And yet, if we are not, what is hypocrisy? Hypocrisy is when someone says something but does something different. So I tell someone, مثلا, I tell someone, for example, you must recite, uh, I don't know, let's say Ziyad Ashura every day. I tell someone you recite Ziyad Ashura every day, but I myself don't do it. This is a type of hypocrisy. If we say to people that, oh, if we say to Allah that, oh, Allah, give us a good government, but then when we have a good government, we disrespect it. We call it names. We don't abide by its instructions because they go against us personally. They cramp our style. Like, for example, if you look at the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, alayhi salam, Imam Ali, when he was compelled to take the government, when he was compelled to take the government, people like Talha and Zubayr came to him and said, Bakhin, Bakhin, ya Abul Hassan, congratulations, Abul Hassan, you've now become the Khalif and all of this. And they are the same people that, knowing full well Imam Ali had nothing to do with the death of Uthman bin Affan. In fact, Imam Ali put Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and Abdul Fadl Abbas in the line of fire to defend Uthman bin Affan. And this is stuff we will come to when in our sessions on Wednesday over time. They still, Talha and Zubair, knowing all of this, they went against him and they said, they rallied around the camel in Jamal that had confused Aisha, and Aisha was confused by all of this. Muawiyah was orchestrating everything, and they went against. So they make, with one face, they make bay'ah to the Imam, they make allegiance to the Wali of Allah, and in the same breath, in the next breath rather, they turn around and go against him. This is nifaq. This is hypocrisy. So what we're saying to Allah over here, that Allah, we want you to help us establish a Tawheed-oriented government. We want you to help us have izzah and have Islam have Islam at the paramount, have your name as the highest. And we want you to humiliate hypocrisy even within ourselves. Even that hypocrisy that lives within ourselves, help us to remove it. Take it out from us. وَتَجْعَلُنَا فِيهَا مِنَ الدُّعَاةِ إِلَى طَاعَتِكَ. And count us among those people who invite others to the obedience of you. If someone is a hypocrite, someone says something but doesn't do it, then they can't invite people to the truth. They can't invite people to obedience to Allah or towards His path. وَالْقَادَةِ إِلَى سَبِيلِكَ. And we can't lead people or guide people towards that path, His path, Allah's path, because we are not doing it ourselves. So we're telling Allah, remove this hypocrisy from us. Help us, give us the tawfiq to remove this hypocrisy from us. So the first place we want to establish a respectful government, a Tawheed-oriented government, is within ourselves. Because if each and every one of us develops that system within ourselves, ultimately it will move into society. It will move into our families, it will move into society, communities, and so on. But if we don't make an effort on the individual level, then nothing will happen properly. Everything will just be a lot of lip service. And we can see this is what's happening. 1,200 years after Imam al-Hujjah went into Ghaiba, and still the Muslims are in a terrible state. Yes, Alhamdulillah, we have a system of honor in Islamic Republic of Iran, but that is not a system without its problems. And we also know how much stress and how much tension is being pushed out against it. And yet you have systems that have the veneer of Islam, like, for example, so-called Saudi Arabia and other such places, and they are considered by many people that, oh, this is Islam. I mean, people have said that Emirat, the most corrupt place on the planet, Emirat is considered a bastion, a place where you can learn about Islam by some of these so-called influencers. So these are things we have to think about. And then we finally finish this by saying, وَتَرْزُقْنَا بِهَا كَرَامَةَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ, and give us through all of this the good of this world and the world to come. So yani, what we're saying is, oh Allah, help us, give us that tawfiq to establish the paradise on earth and in the next day to be those successful ones who are allowed to enter your paradise. Then we go on to the next line. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملناه وما قصرنا عنه فبلغناه. So we say, oh Allah, let us bear out that which you make known to us as the truth. And this goes back to explaining what we'd said earlier, that, oh Allah, that which you have made known to us as the truth, let us say it, let us make it public, let us make it known to the people. Let it be something that becomes a part of us. وَمَا قَصَرْنَا عَنْهُ فَبَلِّغْنَا, and let us attain that which we fall short to do. That thing that we should be doing, but we don't because we're lazy, we're sinful, we're ghafil, we're negligent. Help us to fight off that negligence, that sinful nature, so that we can attain these ideas, we can attain these proximities to you. Then we say, and remember, whenever we talk about, let me say the next line because this will make more sense then. Allahumma al-mumbihi sha'afana. That, oh Allah, through him, set in order our disorder. So again, we're saying that, look, we're acknowledging that Imam al-Hujjah, Jalla ta'ala farajahu sharif, is not an absentee landlord. He's not just sitting quietly on some green island or whatever some people say and doing nothing. He is in the arena. He is here. He is everywhere he needs to be. And so we say that, oh Allah, things that confuse us, things that make us disorderly, things that are not right, through him, through his guidance, through your guidance, help us to set it in order. وَاشْعَبْ بِهِ صَدْعَنَا, that, and gather and unite our people. Gather and unite our people. Help us through him to set everything in order, to remove disorder, to remove chaos, and to gather and unite our people. وَارْتُقْ بِهِ فَتْقَنَا, and stitch together our ripped open separation. So when you have this word in Arabic, وَارْتُقْ بِهِ فَتْقَنَا. Fatqana is like when you have a tear. It's a tear in something. And the only way to repair a tear is you either glue it together or you sew it together gently. If you don't do it properly, that tear will manifold. It will become more and more tears. If you don't carefully, like if you have, say for example, in my qada, I have a tear over here. If I don't stitch it properly, then it will just make more tears. So we need to stitch it so that it actually comes together. وَارْتُقْ بِهِ فَتْقَنَا. So we are fragmented, we are broken because of ignorance, because of sedition, because of corruption. Help us through him. And when we say through him, it means through through Imam al-Hujjah, but also us following him, us following you. Help us to stitch together, to remove, to remedy these tears within our community, within ourselves. وَكَثِّرْ بِهِ قِلَّتَنَا, and increase our very few number. Now, again, when we talk about numbers, in Islam, we never really talk about numbers in terms of quantity. It's always about quality. You look at Badr only had 313 people, but they defeated several thousand. It's about belief. You look at the story of David and Goliath, Dawood and Jalut, and it's never about the quantity. But there is something to be said for quantity. When people see that they're on a side that has many people, many adherents, it does build confidence for many people. For the believer, it shouldn't matter. In fact, in Quran, it says that for the believer, it doesn't matter. When they see that this huge array of people is ranked against us, doesn't matter. It just increases in their faith. So when we say over here, وَكَثِّرْ بِهِ قِلَّتَنَا, and increase through him our few number. وَأَعْزِزْ بِهِ ذِلَّتَنَا. So increase our number in the sense that give us more certainty, give us more belief. Of course, it can mean that, increase us in count, in number of people, sure. But even if it's a few people, if those people are strong in belief, they can move mountains. So in this way, وَكَثِّرْ بِهِ قِلَّتَنَا وَعَزِزْ بِهِ ذِلَّتَنَا, and lift us up from our humiliation. Take us out, give us honor from our humiliation. وَأَغْنِ بِهِ أَعِلَنَا, and grant wealth to the needy amongst us. This is very interesting. And the next line, وَقْضِ بِهِ عَنْ مُغْرَمِنَا. So, وَقْنِ بِهِ أَعِلَنَا, and grant wealth to the needy amongst us, and pull us out of our debts. Because one of the problems, and we see this within this society, not just in the West, but across the entire globe, we see that when we have poverty, poverty will cripple a person. There's a saying by Imam Ali that two things can destroy a man: problems with money and problems with women. I'm not going to discuss this, but just the point that problems with money can destroy a man. Because if a man is unable to provide for his family, is constantly running around and is weak in terms of his financial status because of the circumstance around him, because of the debt slavery and poverty that is prevalent all across the world right now, we can see. And this is also mentioned briefly in the next session on Wednesday, inshallah. But when you have this poverty, this debt, it enslaves someone. It prevents them from speaking. It prevents them from speaking the truth because they're frightened that maybe like many people, we've had this in this country, that you have people who want to speak out against the Zionist aggression in Palestine, but they self-censor. Why? Oh, I don't want to lose my job, brother. This is a slavery. This is a slavery because you are not free to say what is the truth. And this is something that even in this dua, it's mentioned. وَقْضِ بِهِ عَنْ مُغْرَمِنَا وَاجْبُرْ بِهِ فَقْرَنَا. And, remove our poverty. Remove this dependency, this weakness that we have. And how do we do that? Again, we've already mentioned it within the sessions that we're doing in Wilaya and even in Nubuwah, that in the true Tawheed-oriented society, poverty would not be a thing because people would be funded. People would be given money from the state, from the money the state collects. There is a balance made between all of the population. So the basic people have. And people are not encouraged to be extravagant. People are encouraged to be modest and decent. That doesn't mean that they have to be very miserly and everything, far from it. But they have to be sensible. A person in a true Tawheed-oriented society of whatever size, if you have food on your table and your neighbor doesn't, then it is your duty to make sure your neighbor has. If you have that type of system, poverty goes out the window because your neighbor is no longer worried that, oh, I haven't worked today, I didn't get a job today, I didn't get, a 0-hour contract or whatever, and so I can't function, right? He knows that within this environment, within this beautiful paradise on earth, just because I have this problem, I know that Allah will provide. Look at how Imam Ali and all of the Imams used to go out in the middle of the night with sacks of rice and grain on their shoulders. No one knew. The people they were giving these things to, those people had never asked them. But the Imam knew that this person is in difficulty. Maybe he's lost his job. Maybe someone's lost a father. And so the family is in trouble. No, you sort it out. This is how it should be. Then we say, وَسُدَّ بِهِ خَلَّتَنَا. and fill the gap of confusion amongst us. This is very, very important. There's a whole series of sessions Imam Khamenei has done on Tibyin, Jihad al-Tibyin, which is the jihad for clarification, which is one of the means that we use to dispel confusion by educating people, by giving people the truth. So even in this dua, we're saying that, oh Allah, help us through him, through Imam al-Hujjah, but also help us directly. And this is a lesson for us, like I've been saying, a lesson for us to improve ourselves. So we should try and fill this gap of confusion, this place where we don't understand, where the understanding is difficult. And then we have وَيَسِّرْ بِهِ عُسْرَنَا, and make easy any difficulties that we may face. And again, this is the same thing that, of course, we want Allah to help us to, reduce our difficulties and make things easy for us. But we also actively have to work for this. And all of this is bihi. So it's through him. It's through Imam al-Hujjah. وَبَيِّضْ بِهِ وُجُوهَنَا. And make, literally it means, and make white our faces. But what it means actually is refine us, make us in substance and style more refined. وَفُكَّ بِهِ أَسْرَنَا. And release us from our captivity. Again, this yields back to what we said earlier, where if you're a debt slave, you can't speak, because if you say something, your job will be in threat. We're telling Allah that you help us to be released from this captivity. And we also should work to release ourselves from this captivity. It shouldn't just be a case of we sit there, we just say, Ya Allah, please do this for me, please do this for me. No, we have to actively do something about it as well. Then we say, وَأَنْجِحْ بِهِ طَالِبَتَنَا, and make successful those things that we ask you for. This is self-evident, and whenever we ask Allah for something, it should be successful. How can we guarantee it's going to be successful? Of course, we'll come to that when we discuss dua in more detail. But one of the ways is that we try and do something about it ourselves. If we don't do something about it, if I sit down and I don't have a job, I don't do anything, and I say, Ya Allah, please make me a millionaire. I mean, okay, it's a stupid dua, but okay, let's say someone does it. This is not going to happen. This is not going to happen because Allah isn't going to come along and put a pot of gold outside your house. I mean, he can. That's not to say he can't do that, but it's unlikely that he's going to do that. So whatever we ask him for has to be coupled with an action, a movement towards him. وَانْجِزْ بِهِ مَوَاعِيدَنَا, and fulfill your promises to us. Allah has made many promises to us. And those promises are things that he will do for us. And so we say to him, fulfill your promises to us. Not because he's not fulfilling them, but because we need to be reminded of those promises so that we remember Allah has promised us all of this. And the reason this is not happening is because I haven't done this. I need to do this so that Allah can give us all of this. He can make this promise materialize. وَاسْتَجِبْ بِهِ دَعْوَتَنَا, and answer for us our prayers through him. And answer our prayers. Give answers to our prayers. Again, this comes back, and also وَعْتِنَا بِهِ سُؤْلَنَا, and give us that which we ask for. These three are all essentially, you could say, very similar. I mean, there is nuance in it. I'm not going to go into it because, like I said, this is high level at the moment. And even the next one is also related to this. وَبَلِّغْنَا بِهِ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ أَمَالَنَا. All of these, which is fulfill your promises to us, respond to our dua, to our prayers, to our supplications, give us that which we have requested you for, and make us attain our hopes in this world as well as in the one to come. All of these are telling us, they're asking Allah, and Allah wants us to ask, and Allah will respond if we are doing something to move in that direction ourselves. When we say to Allah, answer our prayers, but our prayers are, oh Allah, please, just give me £1 million, right? if we don't do them properly with understanding that, oh Allah, I know I'm a sinful creature. I have done this. We acknowledge, we do istighfar. And then we say, Ya Allah, please help me with such and such thing. Right? This is the way to do dua. And this is what, inshallah, we will try and learn over time. So moving on, وَأْتِنَا بِهِ فَوْقَ رَغْبَتِنَا. And this is something very nice. We say to Allah, grant us beyond that which we can imagine, beyond beyond what we've asked for. Ya khayr al-mas'ooleen, O the best of those who are asked. Wa awsa' al-mu'teen, and the most amazing, the most magnanimous of those who can grant requests. Ishfi bihi sudurana, this is for Imam Mahdi, we're saying, through him, through Imam al-Hujjah, heal our hearts. Heal our hearts. Our hearts are hurting because Imam Mahdi is not here. We see the situation of the world, and that will come shortly. Heal us through him, meaning help us to develop that communication, that connection with him, so that we develop greater certainty in him, so that our hearts are healed and he feels a degree of joy, even if it's minuscule, that there is this some people who are genuinely working in the right way. وَأَذْهِبْ بِهِ غَيْظَ قُلُوبِنَا, and remove the rage from our hearts. Remove this blind anger from our hearts. Because sometimes when we see difficulties, when we see problems, when we see bad things, we feel a rage. And Imam Ali says that anger, rage, this is a temporary madness. It's a bad thing. So we ask Allah, and this is a straight ask, that also should educate us, that we need to develop in ourselves, that remove this irrational rage from your hearts. If you see someone who is not following the right way, chances are it's because you haven't given that person the right way, not because they're malicious. And if they're malicious, then the rage that you have should be only for his sake, like Imam Ali did. So remove this irrational rage that we have. واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. And in the event of a dispute in a matter of truth, show us the right way. So when we have within brothers, within sisters, a confusion, a dispute about a strategy, a way of thinking, a way of doing something, Ya Allah, you show us the right way. And then we quote from Quran, verily you guide whoever you will upon the right path. So we acknowledge that Allah is the one who will guide us towards the right path. And in the event of disagreements or disputes in a matter of truth, you show us the right way. I'm going to speed it up a little bit because I don't want to make this too long. So وانصر به على عدوك وعدونا, and grant us victory over your and our enemy. إله الحق آمين. O God of truth, please respond to us. And the word Ameen, when we say Amen or Ameen, this means please reply. Now we come to almost the last stanza, which is very famous. And this is a one where we are complaining to Allah. And we say, Allahumma inna nashku ilayka faqda nabiyyina salawatuka alayhi wa alih wa ghaybata waliyina wa kathrata aduwina wa qillata adadina wa shiddata al-fitani bina wa tadahur al-zamani alayna. So let's go until that for the moment. First of all, we say, Oh Allah, we complain to you. Now, a person complains when they have tried to do everything to remedy a situation, and it's just not happening. It's becoming very, very difficult. So you go and complain to a loved one. You go and complain to a loved one. There is a video circulating, which I saw earlier on today, where I believe it was Imam Ali had a dream with Rasulullah, and in that dream, he complained to Rasulullah about the population, about the way the people were treating him. Why did he complain to Rasulullah? Because Rasulullah is like his father. And even though he's gone, sometimes a child wants to complain. So when you see your father, when you see your loved one, you want to complain. So when we want to complain about something, we complain to Allah. We say, Allahumma inna nashku ilayka faqda nabiyyina. That, oh Allah, we complain to you about the fact that our Prophet is not here. He has departed. Blessings be upon him and his household. That we are at that point saying to Allah that had your Prophet been here, we would have been with him. So we have to think about this. We are complaining to Allah about the non-presence of Rasulullah. When we complain about that, it should be with certainty and with as much effort as we can that if Rasulullah was here, we would be with him. Then we say, وَغَيْبَةَ وَلِيِّنَا, and the absence of our wali. The absence of our wali. Sometimes people say وَغَيْبَةَ إِمَامِنَا as well, and the absence of our imam, but it's synonymous, it's the same. The absence of our leader. So that means we're complaining to Allah about Rasulullah not being here, about the absence of Imam al-Hujjah. We're saying to Allah that had Rasulullah been here, or had Imam Mahdi not been in absence, had he been with us actively and in person without being in occultation, we would be with him. We would be with him. We have to think about this. وَكَثْرَةَ عَدُوِّنَا, and the huge number of our enemies. وَقِلَّةَ عَدَدِنَا, and the few number of ours, of our own. That it's difficult when you're trying to establish truth and speak the truth, especially if genuinely when you feel the pain of the non-presence of Rasulullah and the ghaibah of Imam al-Hujjah, when you see all of the enemies, even enemies professing to be friends, when we see enemies working against this line, this is something we can complain to Allah about. وَكَثْرَةَ عَدُوِّنَا, and the huge number of our enemies from all different factions. وَقِلَّةَ عَدَدِنَا, and the tiny number of ourselves, our small number. وَشِدَّةَ الْفِتَنِ بِنَا, and the widespread corruption and fitna and disorder and sedition across everything. وَتَظَاهُرَ الزَّمَانِ عَلَيْنَا, and the movement of time against us. And the way that time seems to always get the better of us. Many of us, I'm sure we realize we're busy working, we're trying to do something, and we start the job at maybe, say, 4 o'clock in the evening. Before you know it, it's, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. And the whole day is finished. This is time moving against us because we are not conscious of it. So we have to keep fighting. We have to be better at time management. We have to do all of this. There is fitna all around us. So we have to fight this fitna. We have to, first of all, make sure we are not a part of that fitna. We are not creating that fitna. That we are not contributing to the small number of our people, of the people on this line. How can we complain about the large number of the enemies and the few number of us if we are doing nothing to increase our number by educating people? And so that way we would reduce the number of the enemy and increase our number. So we have to look at it in this way. What are we doing to remedy this? This is a dua. Allah, inshallah, will accept. In fact, certainly He will accept. But we also have to do our portion. It's not just a case of, Ya Allah, please do this, please do this. I'm going to do nothing. I'm just going to go to a casino or something. Then we finish this by saying, فَصَلَّ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَآلِهِ. And then we say, وَعِنَّا عَلَى ذَلِكَ بِفَتْحٍ مِنْكَ تُعَجِّلُ. And help us to overcome all of these problems through a victory from you that you expedite. Yani, this is saying, you give us that tawfiq, you give us that ability, that wherewithal, that wisdom, that understanding through our connection to you to overcome all of this. And to remove our injuries. وَنَصْرٍ تُعِزُّ, and help us with a help that you confirm. وَسُلْطَانِ حَقٍّ تُظْهِرُ, and through bringing about the rule of justice and fairness, meaning the rule of Tawheed, the rule of the Tawheed-oriented society. وَرَحْمَةٍ مِّنْكَ تُجَلِّلُنَاهَا. And through a mercy that you envelope all over us. وَعَافِيَةٍ مِّنْكَ تُلْبِسُنَاهَا. And through good health that you cover us with. Health is actually very important because if someone is an activist, someone is working towards Allah, we have to also look after our health. We can't just be any careless. We have to be cautious. We have to be sensible because this health is something which is a blessing from Allah and we have to look after it. And then we finish with برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. In the name of your mercy, O most merciful of those who show mercy. And that finishes Dua al-Iftitah. And I know that we have gone through this quite rapidly. I personally don't believe I've done it justice in any way yet. But inshallah, the idea that we have is that through the course of this year until the next Shahr Ramadan, we will understand and go through other du'as in much more detail so that inshallah, if He allows it with His tawfiq, we can in the next Shahr Ramadan go through Dua Iftitah in a much more nuanced and powerful way that will really make us understand. But with what we have done, inshallah, we ask Allah that maybe this helps us to understand what is our responsibility to Him, to Imam al-Hujjah, and what we can do to hasten the return of Imam al-Hujjah so that when he comes, he's not immediately in threat. That we have laid the groundwork and done the work so that when he comes, it's a case of him being handed the flag of Islam, and he can then truly govern as the wali the entire system of Tawheed, the Tawheed orientated system. Ya Allah, we ask you to accept our small ibadat. We ask you to grant us the wisdom and understanding to move towards you and to establish this Tawheed orientated society within ourselves, our families, our loved ones, our communities, neighborhoods, and so on. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect all of the oppressed, especially those in Palestine and Yemen and Lebanon who are being bombed mercilessly by the Taghut of the time. Ya Allah, please destroy the Taghut of the time. Please destroy all of their machinations, all of their games, make them backfire upon themselves. Ya Allah, we ask you to protect and strengthen all of the righteous ulama, all of the righteous scholars, and especially the leader, Sayyid Ali Khamenei. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.